Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. We are here back again with another talk of the day at WASP AppSec Days India 2024. And up next, we have Debrup Ghosh, who's going to be talking about different aspects of security professionalism. So I will just bring him on stage. Hi, Debrup.
Hi, Vandana. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks to everyone that's dialing in globally.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Now, the stage is all yours. I will let you introduce yourself and the talk that you have. Over to you.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. My name is Debrup Ghosh. I'm originally from India, but I now live, 40 miles east of San Francisco. Really excited to be here to present to this awesome group of people. And, hopefully you enjoy my talk and there are takeaways that you have from this. So like I said, I always like to start off with the thank you slide because like genuinely there is many things there are many things that you could be doing with your time. So I appreciate you taking the time right now and for spending the next few minutes with us learning about AppSec, and also thanks to the OBOS Foundation for putting together this really great event where we talk about all facets of security. So thank you. Is really excited for this opportunity to present to this group. So want to talk about my story, and really the question that I ask is how did someone that did a bachelor's in materials engineering end up in cybersecurity? So my journey into cybersecurity was as you can tell from this timeline, like I spent my college in materials engineering at NIT Trichy. Then I worked for a company called Michelin, which you probably recognize. It's a very popular logo, let's put it that way. I was one of the first 50 engineers that they hired in India back in 2010 to set up the first factory in India near Chennai. So really excited about that. So did that about 4 years and then came to the US to UC Irvine for my master's and my MBA. Did that for 2 years and then spent the last 8 years in product management, the first 4 in IoT product management, and roughly the next 4 now in application security product management at Synopsys. And F5 at Synopsys, I was the lead product manager for Polaris, which is their cloud application security platform. And then at F5 now, I am leading the AI cybersecurity product line. So once again, really excited to be here. As you can see that, no one was born in cybersecurity, right? Like everyone came here with different career tracks. So here to share my experiences and hopefully to learn from you guys throughout this conference. So as you probably saw the title of my talk, it reads, the inmates running this asylum. So this is this was not an original title that I came up with. There's a very famous book by Alan Cooper from a UX standpoint where he talks about how from a UX standpoint the inmates are running the asylum, and it's a UX product development type of a relationship. So here we talk about the security and developer relationship, and I think there are a lot of key takeaways and parallels that you can draw with what Alan Cooper describes in his book, and then what we see happening in the security world as well. So if you haven't read this, I would highly recommend it, and give it a read when you have time. So obviously, there's a lot of heavy content, so I like to put in some humor. So why did the OWASP top 10 go to therapy? This is generated by ChatGPT because it had too many unresolved vulnerabilities. So hopefully now I have everyone's attention and we can move on to the much more serious stuff. So why is this important, right? Like why are we all here today? Why are we doing AppSec Day in India? It's because if you look at these companies, so you have some very household logos over here. So everyone has probably heard about AT&T, Bank of America, GitLab is very popular in the developer world, right? So you see that there are different verticals over here, totally different types of companies, right? Like AT&T is a telecom company. Thyssen Group is more of selling elevators and stuff. So what do they all have in common? Well, just in 2024, all of these six companies that you see on the screen, they were affected by a cyber attack. So the idea about this slide is not to put these logos out and shame these companies. The idea is to make sure that we understand that everyone is susceptible, and it's really a question of not if, but when. So regardless of which company you work for, maybe you work for a 5-person startup, maybe you work for one of the large companies. I think it's important to understand that cybersecurity and AppSec in particular is extremely important to the overall supply chain of these companies. And this is everyday life for us. If the more you read about all these data privacy hacks, ransomware attacks, extortion, etc., this is unfortunately has become a way of life, and uh, we want to make sure that we are protected to the best possible way that we can do. So I thought about this a few years ago. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, how will the work that I do today make an impact, not only 2 years from now, 10 years from now, but more, 20, 30 years from now? And really, I take inspiration from this slide because a number of us, maybe some of us have children, some of us have grandchildren. If you look at this slide, it really puts into perspective a few things. So if you look at everything that the top 10 risks that people think in the next 2 years, a lot of this is around climate change, around natural disasters, around extreme weather events, and you will see a similar trend everywhere, except for one, which is widespread cybercrime and cyber insecurity. I mean, I was blown away when I read this, that this does make sense. I mean, this is from the World Economic Forum. This is from a risk standpoint. This is why we show up to work every day, and this is what personally drives me towards working in this space and making an impact in this space. So I just wanted to share that personal story. So if you look into, once again, why is this important? So this was a study done by F5 before I joined. This is a very vendor agnostic presentation. I just took the data from F5's report. Pardon me. So it's really a hockey stick growth that we see in the number of CVEs in 2006, roughly 16, 17 years ago. And if you roll it all the way up to 2023, you see that it has almost grown 6-7 times in the last 16, 17, 18 years, which is pretty phenomenal because the numbers released per week, I mean, this is only expected to go up. And this just shows you, once again, the impact that we can make as application security professionals in reducing risk and helping our customers have a safer, more secure workplace every day. And the same goes for CWEs, by the way. Like, I mean, these two graphs, they almost mimic each other. There's clearly, in the case of CWEs, there has been an exponential rise. Stayed flat till about 2015, and then it took off. So slightly different trajectory, but I guess the point that we are trying to make over here is the complexity of these attack vectors and the different multi-level attacks that we are seeing. These are going up every day. And we as a community of responsible professionals in AppSec, we need to do something about it. And that's what I'm here to discuss today. But it's not all gloom, right? Like there's a silver lining, and it's pretty interesting to me how the power of simplicity. So if you really think about it, and I've been saying this for quite a few years now with colleagues and customers and peers that I interact with, OWASP has been publishing the OWASP top 10 for many, many years now. So if you look at the CVEs with the CWE, and if you could, basically work on the top 3 or 4 OWASP top 10, that's 50% right there. So I would strongly suggest, for AppSec practitioners out there that are trying to get work done by their development teams, and I'll get into some details on that. Like, show them this graph. Like this just like developers love numbers. DevOps people loves numbers, and I love this slide because it's so simple. Like, if you can solve for the top 4 in the OWASP top 10, well, that's 50% impact right there, and that's where the simplicity of the OWASP top 10, in my opinion, comes in. So really, really powerful stuff. So if we move on to the industry landscape, and I want to spend a decent amount of time on this next slide. So if you look at what has happened in the industry over the last decade or so. So as we know, big data, cloud, the rise of SaaS solutions. 15 years ago, no one really had heard about Uber or Lyft. Facebook was just probably coming in between 2008 2009. Google was obviously there, but I think what we have seen in the last 15 years is the amount of innovation that we have seen in software. It's phenomenal. I mean, it goes to say that I think the phrase "software is eating the world," that is very, very appropriate now, given it was said 15 years ago, because everywhere we look around us, there's software everywhere driving our day-to-day lives. Whether it's ordering your morning coffee, or getting your 10-minute deliveries in India now, right? Like, phenomenal how far things have come in less than a decade, actually, in India. So I think all of you have seen that the evolving landscape of software development has been pretty phenomenal, where people had this concept of releases and quarterly releases back in the day, and now people are releasing into production, and in some cases for at an enterprise level, several dozen, or in one case, actually, I know several hundred times a day that they're releasing live code into production, which is frankly pretty scary, but that's how quickly software has evolved. So what we have also seen with these rapid technological advancements is applications have gotten a lot more complex. So in the sense that enterprises not only have applications that are on-prem, but they have some that are in let's say a private cloud environment. They have apps running on the public cloud, and they also have software as a service apps that they're using for, let's say, their IT use cases. So there's data everywhere, and apps have gone more and more complex. And then the other one that I will throw out there is, in the last 18 months, with the advance of Gen AI, what we have seen is a ton of AI use cases. AI generated code is just one example that I post over here, but the entire AI supply chain, whether it's security for AI or AI for security use cases, like, it's pretty phenomenal what has been done in about 18 months. I mean, Google, in its last earnings call, I think Sundar Pichai said that 25% of code that their developers are writing are all generated by AI. So if you think about it and put it into perspective, across the thousands of engineers that Google has, 25% code is a lot. And this just shows us where the world is going to go from a software development standpoint. So obviously, software improved, software delivery improved. And that also meant that security had to keep up. And that's where we saw the rise of DevSecOps, really blending in development, security, as well as operationally from a DevOps standpoint, making sure that operations could scale. And this is tough, right? Like you need to have a modern scaled architecture, whether you're using microservices or something else, while also in these complex applications, making sure that you understand the security challenges and that you have a plan in place to do the right risk um, risk modeling, threat modeling to make sure that you're meeting then modern security channel challenges. So obviously, the practices that were there in place before, where at the end of the release you do a pen test and then you take 6 months to resolve that pen test, those days are gone. Now it's just in time for pretty much everything, and making sure that you're meeting the security challenges of scale, scaling the architecture as well, while supporting the rapid um, delivery of software pace. I mean, that only meant that there was one outcome, which is what I call rising tension. Rising tension between developers who want to prioritize speed and, frankly, product managers like me who are probably asking the developers to prioritize speed. And then you have security teams that are focused on risk management, and rightly so, because the entire CISO organization, their job is to make sure that you are protecting and making sure that you are mitigating risk across the entire enterprise. So these are roughly the mega trends that I have seen. If there are other mega trends, feel free to add them to the feedback or the comments, and would love to have an offline discussion about them. So where does this inmates are running the asylum scenario really come in? So as I mentioned, this historical tension where there's misalignment between the speed of delivery and the risk mitigation, risk management that security teams are responsible for. This has always led to a historical tension, and the whole ethos of my talk is it doesn't need to be that way. We have seen, and I've heard many customers and peers describe this, that the delivery deadlines that we have to meet customer needs and rapidly evolving customer needs are overshadowing security, which is why if you go back to my slide around the number of CVEs going up, I mean that it just shows how the speed of software delivery, how these modern architectures that are incredibly complex have led to these delivery deadlines basically overshadowing security, right? And then security professionals, obviously, in my experience, for every 50 to 100 engineers, you maybe have one or two security professionals, and they get frustrated because at the end of the day, their job is to make sure that they're catching the vulnerabilities before the product is shipped. And the reality is there are potential vulnerabilities introduced. It doesn't matter the size of the company, the type of the company. If there is not a really good security culture, and I'll get into more details around that, its security feels sidelined, and overall, you always have this is one of my favorite films, by the way. Hopefully most of you have watched it. Is this in you have a catch me if you can situation where this is development running as fast as it can, and then Tom Hanks, one of my favorite actors, just trying to catch up, right? So this is what we see in the market today, what a lot of enterprises unfortunately experience. So if we move on, let's talk about the DevSecOps transformation, which really has happened over the last 5 to 7 years, where we have, as a community, understood why development, security, and operations need to work in tandem, make sure they are on one team, and what that transformation really looks like. And what I will describe in my talk is really four pillars that build on each other in terms of how we start off with this DevSecOps transformation and move away from what I call the uh, inmates are running the asylum type situation. And the first one, and this is really common sense in my opinion, is understanding your risk portfolio. I cannot explain how many people that I've talked to that don't know what assets they have, where those assets are, and they don't have a complete bill of materials for what their applications look like. I mean, not every application is going to be cloud hosted. There is going to be always a hybrid use cases where something is on prem and something is on the cloud, and it's really really important to understand, have a full view of your application inventory. And it sounds really basic, but I cannot stress how many times I've talked to folks who really don't know what that means. And in order to truly take action, I think the first thing you need to understand is, like, basically, where is all my stuff? And you as a security professional uh, are in charge of making sure that you understand where that is. Um, Building on top of that, and I'll go into some details around that, is automating security testing. So I know a lot of folks have already done that. Running security scans as part of the CI/CD is not new, but then what is really really important is you think, 2 years ago I would say automation first and making it as seamless as possible by automating. But now I will actually challenge you to think AI automation security first. How can you use AI to do security? One of my really good friends, he recently wrote a blog about using LLMs and AI in security testing, and I can post the link uh, to the chat later on. But it's amazing as a community how far we have come in using AI as part of all these pipelines, in using AI to automate security testing. And then just this one time security testing, even as part of the CI/CD, is just not enough. So you really need to think about how can we continuously monitor and make sure that we are protected. Goes into some details around what does continuous monitoring mean, how can you do it, how can you leverage, once again, AI and automation to do that. But above all, and I cannot stress enough on this, at the end of the day, the global experience, or the entire experience, is to simplify the developer experience and make it easy for our developer friends to build safer, more secure software faster. And I think that has been an industry trend that we have seen over the last few years, that makes me really really excited. So going into understanding your risk portfolio, right? So overall, like I said, I think having a centralized system where you have a full unified view of your assets is really really important. So this GitLab developer survey, which I've been following for many years now, I think this is fantastic, and this just gives you these numbers, like how many tools is your team using. I think if you look at these metrics, like 6 to 10 or 11 to 14, I mean, there's data. This just tells me there's data everywhere, and this is it's pretty phenomenal how many tools application security teams or software development teams are using, and where there is no real single source of truth that you have, where all your security assets are consolidated and you have a unified view of risk. And I think that is where my recommendation is to start. The second one that I want to chat about is third party dependencies, right? Like open source components. It can be custom components. It can be components that you got from maybe one of your vendors that is a custom um, version of an open source project. So a Black Duck, where or what the Synopsys Software Integrity Group, now known as Black Duck, where I used to work before. I mean, the OSTRA report that they published, like 96% of total code bases have open source, there are more than 500 open source components per app, and 84% contain at least one open source vulnerability. I mean, if this doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. This just, is one paradigm of how complex code bases are and how complex real life applications are. I mean, this every time I look at this number, it just blows my mind. And if we also look at, how, like, what has happened once again in the last 18 months is with the rise of Gen AI, we are thinking now about AI model security, AI supply chain, AI generated code. Once again, this is how you're using AI today. This is the snapshot from the GitLab developer survey report, and you can see that developers are using AI in many different ways today. And our job, to be honest, is to make sure that we can enable them, but also keep them safe from an AI or model security standpoint, definitely from a supply chain standpoint, because anyone can go grab a model from Hugging Face without really knowing what are the bits inside and what that model is actually doing. So safety from a model standpoint, making sure that your entire end-to-end supply chain is secure. These are really important considerations to have as you are thinking about your modern app risk portfolio. So automating security testing. I mean, this is, I can literally talk about this for a day. This is something that I truly believe in, and I got this. I paraphrased this from someone that I worked with, and it's pretty incredible how powerful this quote is, making security invisible. And this came from an enterprise application security director. Obviously, I won't go into the details of the company or who this person was, but I think this really hits me to the heart. Like, I mean, this is exactly what we want to do. Whether it's running code reviews, static analysis, as software composition analysis, or any type of vulnerability scanning, automating it across the board and making sure that with automation it's scalable, I think that's really, really powerful, and that's what we are shooting towards. So, for example, pre-production DAST can definitely be automated. A few years ago, this was not something that most people would think about automating as part of the pipeline. But I think as DAST tools have, the next-gen DAST tools have evolved, and they have made it more CI/CD friendly, this is very, very much possible today. As you move into production, making sure that there is right observability, you're constantly monitoring for vulnerabilities all in an automated way, whether it's through your WAF or through a web application scanner. It's critical that you're automating security across your entire DevSecOps process, not just in the build phase. Because I think historically we think, automating security testing, I'll run a SAST analysis as part of my pipeline, and maybe I'll run a SCA as well because I'm running the SAST. I think we have to think beyond just the build phase and think about whether it's test, monitor, plan, deploy, or operate. Where can we really automate to do two things, right? Like, first of all, allowing us to scale. I mean, as a application security practitioner, you have a million things to do, and it's just to make sure that you have reasonable work hours, right? But also then as a company, as a program, how you can scale. I think automating this security testing across the entire DevSecOps process is really, really key, whether it's pre-production or in production. And I think some of the innovation that we are seeing today around AI in production, whether it's once again as part of your CNAP solution, as part of your WAF solution, it's going to be mind-blowing how we deploy automation and AI to fundamentally change the way that we think about automating security testing in in um, in AppSec. So now coming to continuous monitoring, and this is more, in the on the production side. So it's great that you ran a test when you were trying to merge your code, but then as a security person, you want to manage risk correctly. And I think one of the most powerful ways to do that is to go above and beyond on the automation and set up triggers for when you scan every time that you notice you have a webhook which tells you when code changed, so you automatically scan as soon as you see new code getting merged in the repo, so you don't even need to run it as part of the pipeline, right? Like, think about it, like that's a different way of thinking about it. Repo oversight, I mean, like, I can't tell you the number of times that I have heard about a developer going and grabbing something online and then polluting the entire supply chain of the company. So making sure that you don't have malware in your repos. That has happened more than once. Your developer did not go and download a component that they were not supposed to download, and then now you have all sorts of security, legal, license problems. And then integrating the security checks within your development lifecycle. Like, obviously you have to do it in pre-prod, but I cannot tell you how important it is to apply the same principles in a production environment, whether it's through your CNAPP solution, your WAF solution. It's critically important that you are monitoring all the time rather than just monitoring in points of time. But I think probably the most critical one is ensuring security without additional burdens, which goes back to the previous point that I made around um, making security invisible, and it needs to stay invisible even during the monitoring phase to make sure that you're reducing friction and improving adoption for your entire organization. And I want to make sure that we are always thinking about simplifying the developer experience. What do I mean by that? Overall, like, if you look at what percentage of time are our developers spending on the daily tasks, 10% goes towards identifying and mitigating security vulnerabilities. And if we can give that 10% time back to them where they can write new code, improve existing code, I mean, that would be massive productivity improvement, right? So if you think, and that's why I think we need to build empathy with what developers are doing every day. But then most importantly, once again, from this GitLab survey, what was really interesting for me is how security engineers, how developers thought that 30% of them thought that security engineers are responsible for AppSec, and 27% thought it's developers, right? I mean, so you can see that it's all across, it's all over the place. But the real answer is not one single function really owns security. Everyone, it's a shared responsibility. So ownership of code security, making sure that you have the right security culture, you are giving ownership and accountability to your development team, and building the culture of security doesn't happen in one day, right? It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to really do that. And I would highly encourage you to step into the developer's shoes, understand some of their pain points, and then build your program by understanding those pain points. Making sure that you are encouraging best practices, setting up a security group within your company that can help guide developers, like pair programming developers with a engineer who's really focused on security. I think it does marvels when you have a mentor, have someone else that you can talk to that understands your pain points. And then most importantly, providing security insights to developers in their products where they're comfortable in, namely the IDEs and the bug trackers. I mean, that's where engineers spend most of their time. So how can we give those insights to developers in their IDEs and in their bug trackers? I think that is really important, with the overall goal that every step of the way we are reducing friction and we are making sure that we allow developers to adopt security faster, easier, and in a more secure way. So in conclusion, um, if we are really thinking about scaling an enterprise AppSec solution, I think we need to think about these three people that you see on the screen: DevOps guru, who's Adam; David, who's the application security manager; and then Wendy, who's a developer. And what does the DevOps person really want? They want something that's easy to maintain. What does AppSec really want? Something that's easy to manage. And what does the developer Wendy really want? She wants something that's really easy to adopt. And I think there's really, there's a secret sauce, but there's really no secret sauce. It's AppSec is really a people business. It's not about the tools. It's not about the processes. It's really about the people. And I think my key takeaway would be, if you really want to scale your AppSec program, building bridging the gaps between the teams, making sure that you have regular alignment at the highest level on what the expectations are from the team, open communication, right? And then being very, very transparent across all the shared collaboration platforms that we have, with the goal that you're always changing perspective. I think AI has been, a great disruptor in some cases, a great enabler in a lot of cases. So see how you can change their perspectives with AI. I'm sure every developer right now is just trying to build a AI tool. So how can we leverage their excitement, their intrinsic motivation to drive this change, and to genuinely have mutual respect between the teams, rather than the tension that we have historically seen, with the goal that we are achieving harmony, that we are strengthening our unified objectives and strategies as an organization, with the goal that we scale. So that's me. Hopefully this was useful. Once again, thank you for your time. I realize you could be in many different places, doing many different things. So I appreciate the opportunity to present in front of you, and thank you once again to the OWASP team for this opportunity. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much, Debrup. It was amazing session, and especially the way you've created different personas. That was wonderful, because actually it was more of a working session than just giving the presentation. So it was wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we are 3 minutes early. Did is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
okay?
that's okay. We do have some questions, but I think you can answer them in the chat box, and people can reach out to you on your LinkedIn profile, so that they can have a discussion with you and they can connect with you as well.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you, Debrup, for joining us today at OWASP AppSec Days India 2024 virtual edition, and hope to see you in person event next year as well. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.